Hey everyone, alright, it's time for a quick little market update. Now, I haven't been on charts recently much since I've been pretty busy, hence why I didn't release a market update last week. So yeah, let's just get straight into this and keep this nice and short. Alright, so as a recap from the last market update, I spoke about how this parallel channel was lost and how I was expecting to see some downside, right? So I made the market update somewhere here. You can see from that point we did dump 7.5%, right? Now, on the high time frame, as mentioned up there, structure has been lost. So instead of looking to long the dip, I would be looking to short pumps, right? Now, on the daily, you can see we do have a nice little head and shoulders here with a supply zone. So if you do get a move up there, that would be a short trigger. Limit there. And short that down. Now, technical targets of this would be down in 68k, right? So that is a short that you could take. You can see that we have indeed lost this trend line, right? But then trend lines are also pretty subjective, so it doesn't really matter. Now, it is a bit unfortunate because I was looking at this 83.5/85k level to fill, which you can see that I got a front run. That is something that I did speak about in my channels and I believe on my Twitter too. In the bear, a ton of levels get front run, which is why you always need to have a contingency, right? So up here, in all of my market updates, I've spoken about how I'm going to dump off my spot bags in this zone. But then I also added the fact that if we did manage to break structure, which we had high, low, just draw this out, high, then you can see here, high, low, high, broke below, formed what we like to call a Quasimodo pattern. With this pump up, that is where I dumped off my spot bags, and we dumped further, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is it doesn't take much to be a profitable trader, right? There are two things that you need to know, right? So just draw this out, type this out. Two things: support and resistance lines / zones, and market structure. Those are the only two things you necessarily need to know, right? Everything else is just confluence. So when you see me use supply and demand, fibs, all of that, that is just confluence for these two things, right? These two things are what I base all of my trades off, right? I've known many people, like for example, some people don't even, like a good friend of mine, doesn't even know what market structure is. He primarily trades support and resistance lines, and he is a profitable trader, right? So there's no point in my eyes making your charts like a complete mess. No one can read it. Just keep it nice and simple, and yeah. But yeah, back to the update. You can see structure got lost up there. So from there, what I'm expecting on the high time frame, if I go to my chart, high time frame chart, from here, I'm essentially expecting a slow and steady grind down. So something like this. Slow and steady grind down with lower highs down to about 40k before the next bull starts, right? So that is essentially my long-term Bitcoin outlook. Now, if you didn't catch the move up there, don't try to long. Do not try to long the bottom, because at that point the odds are against you. I would much rather set limits for higher up, such as here you've got the Head and Shoulders and Demand Confluence, then you've also got a resistance point there, right? Or an SR. Now, I would much rather risk getting front run by setting limits up there, and let's say price does something like this. I'd much rather this happen than try to long, let's say down here, for example, target up to the highs, and something like this happens, right? Because I'm sure many of you have heard this many times. The trend is your friend when you're trading. There is no reason to play against it. I don't see Bitcoin going up past these highs, so there is no reason to long, right? I'll wait for my limits to hit. If they don't, oh well, I'll move on, look for more trades. And in terms of that, that is the number one rule that should maintain your profitability, right? So yeah, you've also got the trendline confluence too, forgot to mention. So we've got a ton of confluence for this short. Now, ETH. Higher time frame, we were ranging, right? We were up here. Broke below that range. Now this is what I mentioned about limits not getting filled. You can see here, just carried on dumping, right? Actually, let me get a new chart up, since I need that one. Yeah, nah, this one should be right. So, range broke below, didn't retest it. So now, if we do get a move back up there, that could be a good place to find some shorts. And if you are in any long-term ETH spot bags, that would be a good place to take profit or dump them off. Maybe not long-term, but if you do have spot bags, that would be a good place to dump them off. And yeah, like I said, didn't get retested, ran lower, right? But if we go on the weekly, you can see we do have a nice little. Just get rid of this. We do have a matter of fact. We do have a nice bear flag that we have just broken out of and retested, right? Now, technical targets of this bear flag is all the way down at around $800 to $700, right? Do I think we go down there? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Either way, if you do take a short off that, a long-term short, I wouldn't be waiting to go down there. What I would do is I would take profit at levels of support, as always, right? So I'm drawing some out now. This is where you would want to be taking profit, right? And of course, a few up there, but I'm not going to draw out everything. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do just straight up fly down from here. But then on the daily, just go back to this chart. Here's what I had, right? Here, price was just fiddle fucking for about a week or two, right? This was your range to play off. So you can see, long the lows, here was your low, here was your high, long the lows, short the highs. That would have played out, giving you a few solid trades. Same with it, although it didn't reach the highs just yet there, right? Either way, you can tell market structure is still bearish, right? You've got high, low. You can see we never broke this high up there. Lower high, lower low, lower high. We could dump from it, right? So, now, the difference about this is you had the range here, right? As always, you could be a breakout trader, which if you did, you go on a lower time frame and play the breakout, right? Tight stops, yada yada, all of that shebang. But if you play it like I do and wait for confirmation on a higher time frame, you can see we broke out, we had the order block here. Now this is not a supply zone or a demand zone, this is an order block. So you can see, move down, retested the range, tapped the order block and dumped, right? So that is a short position that I did take and I posted on my channels. And I'm expecting this to go even lower, right? Now, if you didn't get in that, wait for confluence. Don't FOMO in. Don't try to catch the bottom. No one is that good, right? You want to wait for confluence, wait for limits to fill, play with the trend, right? So I would not be looking to long. Now, scalping, fine, as long as the trend is in your favor. But even if you are scalping and you're trying to long, I would reduce position size since, again, you're playing against the trend. And the trend is your friend, right? So we have lost this trend line. So if you're looking for positions, you could wait for a retest of it, which has happened there. So if it does go back up there, that is a short that you could take, right? By the way, like I said, this bear flag has just broken out and it has been retested, so we'll see how it plays out. But I am expecting quite a nice little dump from this. Now, Sol is still ranging, right? There's nothing really that interesting going on here. On the weekly, you haven't really got anything clean going on here. But you could make an argument that this is a bear flag alongside ETH. If you do play off that, you've got targets down in the 20s, which I would be reluctant about going down there. I think we do reach about like the 40s, 30s, maybe 20s if we push it. But do we go down a sub 20? Maybe, but I doubt it, right? So yeah, you can make an argument we do have a bear flag there. Broken out, retested, and now we're pushing lower. Now we could get a cleaner retest. That doesn't mean we can't get it and then dump, but that is what I see currently. Lower time frame, you can see we are still ranging, right? However, trendline has been lost. And yeah, essentially I am looking for a move down. I am short on Sol, right? So that is a little supply zone that you could have taken there. If you go on a lower time frame, actually now let's stay on the daily. What you do have here is another bear flag, right? Technical targets for these is down at these lows, right? Down at $73.6. So that is what I played off. I am short on it. I don't think I gave that my channels because this was a slightly riskier trade. But yeah. Just keep playing with the trend. You can see ranges have broken out. So if price action does happen to go back into the ranges, that is something that you can play off, right? Now, if you do insist on being long, right? Which, mind you, I wouldn't really necessarily long coins like ETH and Sol, especially when Bitcoin is going down. But if you are insistent on longing, you can wait for range lows to get tapped, right? Set limits down there, stops probably below this wick, and target high, right? And like I've said many times, just play off the range. Here's your mid-range. Flip that to resistance. TP1, TP2, if it does happen to play out. play the short up there, and just keep playing the range until it's broken, right? If we consolidate our mid-range, don't trade. If we break out, that would be your short trigger, right? So that's what I see on Sol. Now, another thing I wanted to go over is USDT dominance, right? Now, USDT dominance in my eyes isn't as effective when Bitcoin dominance is high, which you can see it's at around 60% now. I think it's most effective when Bitcoin dominance is lower in about the 40s, 30s, maybe low 50s. That's when I think the real excitement begins. But you can see on the daily on the USDT dominance chart, you do have an inverse head and shoulders playing out, right? And since this is inversely correlated to Bitcoin, if this goes up, then Bitcoin is going to go down. And now, if you do take the technical targets of this, that would be up there, which also does line up with a solid little resistance. So essentially on the USDT dominance chart, it is hinting at a move up. Do I think it must happen? No. But yeah. Hold on, there's just an alarm going off on my phone. There you go. Alright, so if this does happen to play out, which you can see the head and shoulders got retested here. So if a move up is going to happen, it's from here, especially with this little demand zone confluence there. All signs point to up. So if this does happen to play out, I think we could see a solid little dump on Monday or the beginning of this week. Now, Bitcoin dominance, you can see another nice little range, right? You've got range lows there, range highs up there. You can see we did break out of the range, hence why alts have been pretty shit currently, especially with that move up on Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin dominance, well, just as a quick little summary for those of you who don't know what this is, when Bitcoin dominance is at resistance, right, alts are likely to have a run, right? When Bitcoin dominance is at support, alts are probably going to do pretty shit, right? So yeah, we did have a little breakout here as the deviation. If we close back in the range, which we have closed in 8 hours, you could play off the retest of the range highs again. If it retests it, closes back below, then that would be your sign to start looking at some alts, right? Since they will likely run. But that depends also on what Bitcoin does, right? Because if Bitcoin goes down while Bitcoin dominance is going down, that means that alts are going down / accumulating, but aren't dumping at the same rate as Bitcoin, is essentially what I'm trying to say, right? Same with Bitcoin pairs on coins, right? That is what I like to look at every time I enter a spot trade or a swing trade. But yeah, Bitcoin dominance, you can see this support line on a high time frame, this SR line, sorry, we deviated. We didn't bounce from it, which I thought that we were going to, but we didn't. So we are now closing below. If we close below, I would be looking for a retest of these two lines. If we do get it, then you know how to play off that. But yeah, in terms of the market, this is essentially what I see. I'm expecting this dump to continue down to about the 40s. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, thanks everyone.